Welcome to the Taco podcast. I'm Takato, and my goal here is to help you transition from the military to your civilian career or business. Today, I bring on Alexis, who works in HR, but is a multi-talented veteran, parent, and content creator. Alexis shares her insights into how to find a skillbridge opportunity in a non-traditional route, how to leverage LinkedIn during your job hunt, how to choose between multiple job opportunities, the importance of maintaining your physical health, and so much more. If you're interested in learning how to build an audience on LinkedIn, how to grow your analytics skills, or learn how to combine multiple skill sets into your role, this episode is for you. Hope you enjoy it.
In the Subaru with my Nikes on the dash. In the Subaru with my Nikes on the dash. In the Subaru with my Nikes on the dash. Nikes on the dash, Nikes on the dash.
Alexis, thank you so much for joining the Tapping with Taco podcast. Super excited to have you here today. Let's have you give a quick intro of yourself, and then we'll dive into our topics.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. My name's Alexis, obviously. I spent 13 years in the Missouri Army National Guard, and the last 10 of which I was on active duty. Towards the last year, I knew that my ETS was coming up, and I guess to backtrack, I did HR for most of it. So I kind of went between being human resources and a medic. And really, those two job fields just kind of intersected throughout my entire career. So towards the last year, I really wasn't sure if I wanted to stay full-time or not. But I was trying to ride the line. I was really cutting it close. I pretty much made the decision like 3 months before my active duty came off that I was like, well, I guess this is it. I have to commit because, opportunities aren't really presenting themselves like I would like. So when I made that decision, it was so that I could do skillbridge because they won't let you apply for skillbridge if you're not for sure going to ETS. So I was a little over 100 days out, and I don't recommend that. If people can take a little bit more time, that's definitely ideal. So I prepared to transition out with that background in human resources. I did find a civilian job in human resources, and I've pretty much been doing that for the last year.
Thanks for that introduction. That must have been super stressful to go through the skillbridge 100 days before. Can you tell us more about that transition? Because there's a lot of people that are in that period of like, oh, I don't really have a year or 2 years out to really plan for this. What are some of the things that were a challenge to you and that you were able to overcome?
Yeah, so with being a little over 100 days out, I missed the cutoff for a bunch of different organizations that had already been well acquainted with skillbridge. They had regular cohorts scheduled, and they had cutoff dates that you needed to apply for them. So I did a bunch of research, and I stumbled upon skillbridge. So first off, for the Missouri Army National Guard, like nobody knew what it was. So the fact that I had found it was kind of just by chance. And then I had missed the opportunity to apply for a bunch of places. So I started connecting with some of the like administrators for skillbridge. And then I think there's another thing like skillbridge, but I can't remember what the name of it is. And they basically told me that I don't have to use an organization that's already partnered with them. I could find new organizations, present the opportunity to them. And so that's kind of what I did. My chain of command had like a restructuring in the Missouri Guard. So my position was going away anyway. And because of that, they were inclined to help me because I didn't have, anywhere else to go without moving. So at that point, I started applying for jobs because I was like, well, I don't know for sure if I'm going to get a skillbridge. So at the very least, like I have to have a job to provide for my family. And like you said, it was super stressful. So I started soliciting the opportunity. When I finally started getting interviews, I was like, hey, just so you know, like, here's when my terminal leave starts. But if you want me to come work for you sooner for free, then, here's a way that you can partner with, hiring our heroes and do a skillbridge opportunity. And it looks great on your organization for helping a veteran. And that's kind of what worked out for me.
How many organizations did you have to reach out to figure or to land your first skillbridge opportunity?
Yeah, so I was I had two specific companies that I was talking to about skillbridge. One of them was a much larger company, and so kind of like with other companies, they not only had like cohorts that they had scheduled for like anybody onboarding, but they also wanted to make sure to send it through legal and do, you know, the deep dive and background with it. And so I had missed their training cohort because they couldn't have their legal team review it in enough time. And that kind of worked out for me because the other organization is the one that I got a job with and got a skill bridge with, and it paid a lot better than that bigger organization did.
What do you recommend for those people who are looking for, the things that are not traditional skill bridge programs, that are looking for these opportunities and find these opportunities for themselves?
So, honestly, my recommendation would be LinkedIn. Because I didn't really start using LinkedIn until I made that commitment to leave, I was too new. I didn't really have relationships developed. If I were doing it over again, I would definitely have started on LinkedIn a lot sooner, and I would have been networking within the type of fields that I liked. And at that point, I have no issues messaging somebody on LinkedIn that I don't even really talk to. So I would have been looking for, you know, hiring managers or recruiters in different organizations, and started just messaging them, talk about how much I love the company, the skills that I could bring for them, that I could do for them, and then talking about this opportunity where, you know, Skillbridge is 3 months where they don't have to pay you. So a lot of people just don't know. And at that point, if you're able to make that connection within the organization, then you can help connect them with, you know, the hiring our heroes administrator, and get all of the information sheets and stuff to them.
As long as you reach in or reach out on LinkedIn, there's always possibility there, which is a good
Yeah.
segue into LinkedIn, right? So you post a ton on LinkedIn, from all different types of sorts of things. And for those people that are kind of like what you were talking about, you didn't start using LinkedIn until you figured out that you were going to transition out.
Hmm.
For people who are just getting into LinkedIn and really want to leverage the possibilities of LinkedIn, like, can you share, so a couple things, right? How has LinkedIn helped you? Like, you have a ton of engagement on your posts, and what kind of tips can you share for people that are looking to post content or engage with other companies, or even for future employers?
Yeah, so it's so awkward getting started. So I totally empathize with, you know, people that are like, oh, I don't like LinkedIn. I don't want to have to learn how to use something. But LinkedIn is the entire reason why I found a good job after leaving the military, because I had applied, I had assumed I had 10 years of, you know, professional experience in the military as human resources and some project management. I had a bachelor's degree, which is more than what a lot of military have. I was like, it'll be so easy for me to get a job. And I applied for like 60 jobs on usajobs.gov, and I never got so much as an interview for a single one of them. I even had a friend who was, you know, working for, you know, the VA or something, to give me recommendations on teaching me how to build the resume in that system. Nothing. I didn't get any interaction. And so I started applying to other places where I knew friends worked. I had employee referrals. I still got nothing. And so that's when I started posting on LinkedIn. And that's actually like what led me to getting job opportunities. One of them, I had posted in an HR group. I said, hey, you know, in the military, I'm a subject matter expert on HR systems. So could someone point me in the direction of what systems I need to learn? Like, I'm having trouble finding a job. And I got multiple interviews from that. And then because I was posting regularly, I get random not interviews, but random recruiters reach out to me all the time. So showing up and helping people find you, like, help them help you, you know? As far as getting started, people want to connect with people. An introduction post is always a great way to go. People like to support you and cheer you on when you're working through stuff. So I recommend that people, if you're working on certifications, or you know, accomplish something, you are able to be interactive within your local community and do something, like share that stuff. People love to cheer you on. And that helps people kind of identify, you know, what value you might bring and what kind of a person you are. There's also a lot of engagement on my posts for like transitioning vets. So here's my experience. Here's what worked for me. And I have a little bit of experience to share because I went about it the hardest way possible. So, you know, that opens doors for conversations. I will say that one of the biggest things is be careful about what you post. Like for the most part, it's 2023. Businesses don't care as much that you're posting on public social media, but they can see every like and comment that you make. So, you know, it's okay to have a difference of opinion, but there's a way to do it respectfully and professionally, and there's a way to just be belligerent about it.
What are some tips for that last specific point you just brought up as far as everyone can see what you're doing publicly? How do
Yeah.
you take advantage of that and give yourself a good image on LinkedIn by doing some of those engagements on LinkedIn?
So I definitely recommend people just kind of be cognizant of the like the stuff that they're engaging with. So I think a lot of people are very familiar with like Facebook and TikTok and stuff, and the algorithm is going to show you what you interact with. So for me, I have a really strong connection with someone in private sector human resources, and I love his posts. I always engage with that. I try to offer um, valuable like content on his stuff, so that way not only am I contributing to the conversation, but it's also drawing people to my profile because they're like, well, who is this girl? And like, I want to know more about her based upon what she's saying. There's also, I engage with people who are into things that I'm into. So I like to support a lot of people that are in the fitness realm. I've ironically been drawn to a lot of the Marines, and I like their mentality and their work ethic. I'm not sure how that happened, but other things that I'm also interested in. So I interact with Salesforce stuff and data analytics because people are not only posting what they learn, so I can cheer them on and I can see that, but people provide helpful content in the comments. So somebody posted a data analytics dashboard, and someone who, is considered well established in that field was able to give constructive feedback, and I like look for that stuff so that way I know, hey, when it's my turn to start doing this level of stuff, like here's what professionals are looking for, which only helps me develop and create opportunities for myself as well. I'm not sure if that answered your
Oh,
question.
I really like that one. That one's, it's like you're giving an insight. Like, oh, it's almost like you're getting a cheat of like, oh, this is what I should do. Other people are reacting
Yeah.
this way. Yeah, so that's a great one. Like, look at other people's posts, see how it's being engaged, and copy that for yourself.
Yeah.
That's,
And people will tell you like they don't really care if you steal, if you take kind of inspiration from their posts, but don't just blatantly copy and paste what someone posts. I mean, I feel like I shouldn't have to say that, but people still
mhm.
do it. So there's that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, come up with your own. Don't plagiarize for sure. One thing you mentioned that I want to jump back to about the LinkedIn part, and because I think LinkedIn is really important for a lot of transitioning veterans. So you mentioned you found like that HR group when you started posting it. How did you find that? Did you just like search for it? Did a friend tell you about it? How do people that are looking for those like specific niches in their like skill set find those communities within LinkedIn?
So I started by searching for it. I figured it was kind of like Facebook, where Facebook has human resources groups where people can offer feedback and stuff. And so I was looking for that in LinkedIn. I feel like they're not as active as the Facebook groups are, but obviously active enough that I was able to just get interviews from it. But outside of that, finding those people that post regularly in the field that you're looking into. So, my friend Albert, he is a data analytics guy. He's super smart with that stuff, and he has shared groups. I think there was one that's like a veteran specific. So he shared it, and you can go to the website and sign up for the email stuff. And then once a month, they do like a Zoom call or something where everybody's welcome. There's some really, I don't know how to say it besides like the military term, like higher up people, people that are very well established, very, very smart and influential. And then I know next to nothing, like Tableau. But I was able to join the call and just be invited to the conversation, which is something that I think that LinkedIn gives people the opportunity to do. That outside of LinkedIn, I don't know that many people who do data analytics, but I can find a bunch on LinkedIn, and it's an open invitation to be a part of the conversation and learn. And I think that's just so important and underutilized.
That's the second time that Albert has been brought up in my podcast. So Albert, I'll have to bring you on. I know Abe mentioned, and now Alexis, you've mentioned Albert, so I'll have to get him on one of these episodes
Yeah, he's
coming
great.
up. So you've mentioned data analytics. You are in an HR role today, right?
Hmm.
Can you talk to us kind of how you got inspiration of data analytics, and are you trying to have you incorporated any of that in your roles today?
Yeah, so when I was preparing to transition, I was concerned that transitioning to a human resources role was not going to pay as well. And so I knew that people who are in data analytics statistically like got paid higher salaries, and I wanted to establish those skills that could open up those doors um, for potential opportunities in the future. So when I was in the middle of transitioning, I applied for any and every program that offered stuff to veterans, and not just veterans. Like there's an organization that like also offers certifications for moms. So I applied for all of them. So I did the Google Data Analytics certificates. That kind of helped introduce me to Tableau. I did use the American Corporate Partners (ACP), and they ask you what you want, like who you want to be partnered with. And I said, I'm pretty comfortable in human resources. I feel, confident in my ability to network within that, even in the private sector. But I don't know enough people in like IT, and I need someone who can help mentor me in that field. And so they partnered me with a guy named Andrew, and he is a Tableau wizard. He is so great. So he helped introduce me more to Tableau, and then like through those connections, then I found Maven Analytics, which has some really um, great programs. Like they're very user friendly. Like they are visually appealing. Like sometimes you get programs and it's so boring. It's just so boring.
Mhm.
But Maven Analytics is great. I really liked their stuff, and just so on and so forth. Like finding all these different avenues to continue to increase those skills. As far as using it in my current job, I would say that it has helped me because I'm an HR department of two. So aside from my boss, like I'm the one that's pulling all of these reports. I'm the one that's putting things together. And I don't know how much you did like Excel stuff in the military, but like in HR, we use spreadsheets for everything. And once I started intentionally upskilling, I didn't realize just how terrible we were with spreadsheets. Nobody knew basic stuff like pivot tables and VLOOKUPs, and years of my life could have been saved if I had just upskilled a little bit, even while I was in the military. So in HR, we use it for everything, for payroll, for benefits, applicant tracking. There's reports upon reports upon reports, and being able to manipulate that quickly and with less error, just because of the skills that I was trying to learn for like data analytics.
That's really interesting. So it sounds like there's things that could have applied to even current members that could still utilize that skill like before and after they get out of the military then.
Yes. And in fact, that's one of the things that I had posted on LinkedIn is that you don't have to wait till you're trying to have a, life-changing career move to start upskilling. This stuff would have been so beneficial if I had learned it 5-10 years ago.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm glad you're sharing this because I'm sure some people listening are kind of still considering, but now they can upskill while they're still in the military. So thanks for sharing that.
Yes.
And we've been talking a little about your role and how you've incorporated data analytics. Can you talk to us for those people who really are curious, like what does it look like on the other side? Can you talk to us about what you do in your role and what your day to day looks like so they get an insight into what it could look like for their future role?
Yeah. Um, when I was preparing to transition, I assumed that HR was kind of the same everywhere. And because I was in the Missouri National Guard, how we did payroll is more similar to the private sector, just because we do have the people that come only once a month, and we have the people that get special bonuses like aviators and things like that. So I was more familiar with that style of payroll. But I, when I was given two job offers, so I was given an offer with Honeywell and with the company that I'm at now. Honeywell is a big company, right? And they have many, many different HR roles within the company. And then I'm at a startup, and it's me and my boss, and that's it. So I really had no understanding of the distinction between the two. And so I pretty much do everything. I do payroll, I do benefits, I do, evaluation tracking. I not the primary recruiter, I'm not a recruiter at all, but I had to learn how to use the applicant tracking system to help set it up. So when I think of it compared to the military, when I was at a unit level, I did pretty much everything as the HR for everybody, officers enlisted alike. And that's very similar to being at a startup. Like you're just the point of contact for anything and everything HR related. The only difference is at a unit level, there's an echelon above you that can provide guidance and help you with stuff and answer questions. And you don't have that in the private sector at a startup company. The closest thing that you're going to have is like compliance regulations, and you have to do the research. You have to have research skills because there's just no one size fits all, especially at a startup with people in multiple states, because each state has their own set of laws and stuff. So it was infinitely more complicated than I was expecting, but also I feel very well prepared to move on to any position ever because I just had to do so much in that first year.
That's awesome to hear that you're having to like grow kind of into your role and like learn all these new skills. And I want to bring it back to the point where you had to make this decision, right? You had two offers. You can
Mm-hmm.
go to a larger company or a startup. And
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people are going to face a similar situation where they have to make a decision between two, maybe three, four, five different offers. If you're comfortable sharing this, like what made you want to go with the startup route versus the more kind of enterprise route?
Yeah. So there were a couple of factors. Um, One that was just really appealed to me after being in the military, and I think so many people can relate. I wanted to be with my family. I wanted to be closer to home, and I was tired of commuting. So the startup company was a remote position, and Honeywell was like an hour drive. So there was already that. Then the pay was fairly similar. So I took into consideration what are my opportunities going to be like. Um, I think if I had gone with Honeywell, maybe I would have had someone to help mentor in like a data analytics thing. But at the time, I didn't really know what I wanted. And so I knew that at the startup, I was going to have a bigger influence, that as we implemented programs, as we grew, I would get to choose things and build things out as I wanted to. And I really liked the idea of being able to um, have my voice heard and provide value to the company on a level that people actually appreciated. Because in a company as big as Honeywell, starting at the bottom, like I'm kind of like the military, like I'm a number in the line. And then another big thing, and I know this is kind of a controversial topic, but Honeywell does have medical mandates very similar to the military. And in a remote company, there's no, like, you have to have so many vaccinations to come into the office, because I literally just walk to my office every day. So that was really appealing to me, especially because, there's just so much controversy over it, and it's hard to know what's right and what's right or what's wrong.
Absolutely. It sounds like you've really enjoyed your role in the last year and have really grown and learned a ton since you've transitioned out with having to learn all this skill. So as we pivot here a little bit, in your LinkedIn post, right, you talk a lot about your kids and things that are not related to work, right? You talk about
Mm-hmm.
your workouts. Are there any lessons learned? I'm curious, right? As a parent, as a military spouse, having to navigate through all this military transition, being a spouse at the same time, that you would want to share with other parents that are growing within their career, or other military spouses that are growing within their career?
I think that one of the things um, that leads me to post about this stuff is that if we want things to change, we have to be a voice in the room. And there is somebody on LinkedIn, and I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but she posts regularly about what it's like being a working parent in today's society. And it's hard. It's hard when there's like huge wait lists for kids to go to school. And this last year, where, kids are sick all the time, and you're trying to show up 100% at work and also with your kids and maintain boundaries and things like that. And she gets a lot of grief on that. But at the same time, if we don't talk about it, it's not acknowledged. So, kind of like a relationship, like you have to communicate. And obviously you need to communicate with your boss and stuff, but there's a lot of people that engage with my posts or watch my content, and I see that. And so I like to give a voice to the conversation, because sometimes, if a wife tells a husband something, he doesn't listen. Or a kid, mom tells the kid something, the kid doesn't listen. But if somebody else says it, they might be like, oh, they've got a point, you know? So that's one reason why I post what I post. But then also, so much about what I've learned about how to interact with adults is things that I've learned as I've grown as a parent. So, one thing that I learned is that not everybody is taught how to deal with stress and conflict, right? I try to, put the human in HR, but treating everybody with respect. But then also, one of the biggest things that like makes people feel respected, and I learned this because I have children, is back briefing when they talk to you, when they bring up conversations. My daughter will tell me something 100 times in a row. And I could be like, yes, babe, I get it. Yes, dear, I hear you. But she won't feel heard unless I'd be like, oh, you're putting your baby to sleep, after she told me she put her baby to sleep, right? Like something simple. But because I said it back to her, she feels heard. And I had a supervisor that I distinctly remember when we would come to him with conversations or grievances, he would not only repeat it back to us to be like, this is what I heard. Am I understanding it correctly? And then he would ask, what do you want to get from having this conversation with me? Like, do you just need to air it out and get it off your chest? Or are you expecting me to take action somewhere, so that way there's a clear understanding of, what's going on and what the expected result is? Um, it's something so simple as that can make a huge difference in relationships everywhere, but especially in the professional world.
I don't have kids, so I can't have the context of like, hey, I heard you and all this stuff. So that last one definitely resonated with me. Whenever they always tell you, whenever you bring something up to a manager or to a boss, like you always want to have that, make sure that they fully understand what you're saying and they're not just venting at that point, right? As far as what the action they need to take. So that's really
Yeah.
good. I'm glad to hear that part. One other point that I do want to dive into though, when it comes to like the non-work related posts.
Mm-hmm.
So in the military, PT every day or regularly, and then like even when I got out, I just like stopped working out. I was like, I'm done. I'm so tired of this, right? And
Yeah.
I see you post a lot on your LinkedIn. For those people who are kind of like me who are demotivated and don't want to work out, how important have you seen it, and how have you seen it help you within your day to day to kind of keep working out and keep your physical health in top condition?
People want to think that it doesn't matter, but it does. And I think one of the things that started my thought process on that was I read a book and it talked about, and I'm not Christian, I don't identify as that, but it was a Christian based book, right? It talked about how are you going to be, you're the best disciple to share the word of God, or to help people to be an influence in your community, if you're tired all the time and you have all these chronic illnesses and all these things. It's more than just being fat. And I say that, like, mind you, like, I'm a little overweight myself, so that's why I'm trying to get healthier and all this stuff. So I'm not, trying to fat shame anybody, but it's so much more than just looking a certain way. For me, I have never been officially diagnosed. I kind of assume that I have ADHD, but I know that working out has so many benefits to help ADHD like symptoms. So for people who are unmedicated like myself, my brain is so much more efficient at work when I have taken the time to work out and get the blood flowing and the hormones, leveling out like they need to be. And then if I sit at my desk all day, my back hurts so much more than especially if I don't work out for like 3 to 4 days. It hurts so bad. But if I'll go do some deadlifts and loosen up my back, I feel great. My body functions better. So to me, it's things like that. Like chronic illness runs in my family. My family has fibromyalgia and things like that, which diet and exercise can help mitigate that. My ability to show up at work, to not only operate efficiently like in my head, but to also have the capacity to help said adults if they're in a state of stress, because I'm already calmed down. I'm already at a base level that I can be the calm to the storm and help bring them back down. And I think that professionals need to hear that. Like sometimes they need somebody to lead them. And again, it's not a fat shaming thing. Like most of my posts are, hey, working out does more for me mentally than anything else, but in case nobody has taught you that because you weren't in the military, because so much of the professionals on LinkedIn haven't been in the military, like let me invite you to that conversation. It is important. Your health does matter. You have permission to take control of your life and feel good in your body. And hey, you will be a better professional by taking care of your health.
So yeah, make sure you stay active, stay working out, get the blood flowing, kind of clear out your mental state right there.
Yeah.
Cool. Any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
It's so awkward getting started on LinkedIn, but single-handedly LinkedIn is a thing that made my military transition as amazing as it was. I remember having a conversation with coworkers in the military, and I said, the promotion opportunity is very limited right now, especially because of my I was on a permanent profile. I couldn't run, so I couldn't go be an officer and make more money that way. And so I said, I don't understand, why they think I would move 2 to 3 hours after I just bought a house when I could leave and go to the civilian world and get a remote opportunity. And then I wasn't getting interviews, and I was like, oh my God, I've got to get a job somehow, So building that network on LinkedIn, engaging with the conversations, not only helps recruiters help you, but it invites you to those conversations that maybe your people group, around you aren't having. Like there's people on there that talk about all the amazing things that the American Legion is doing. And I had no idea because I thought it was just like a thing for old people. Like I didn't know, and people talking about policies and programs and stuff for veterans and stuff that I would have never been invited to the conversation because I didn't know how to find those types of people. So just get started. Share who you are, share what you're working on, share where you'd like to go. Ask people for help. You don't know what to post, ask somebody for help. People just love to give you their opinion. Whether or not you take it, don't be offended by anything. Everyone wants to feel heard, so they like to give their opinion, and that's a great way to start building conversations.
That's some very strong and actionable last thoughts. Thank you so much. If
You're welcome.
People want to reach out and say, hey, Alexis, I need help with my LinkedIn post, or I just want to reach out and get some feedback, what's the best way they can reach out to you?
Yeah, I respond to every DM on LinkedIn. So, my name's Alexis at ALEXISS. There's 2 S's. And then my last name's Talent, but it's TALLANT. So, pretty sure I'm the only Alexis Talent on there. Feel free to just shoot me a message, but don't be one of those weird people that only says hi and then nothing else.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Alexis. This is awesome. Lots of good content and lots of good takeaways here. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And then hopefully this helps somebody, which is really my ultimate goal.
Thank you so much for listening. If you found this valuable, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and now YouTube. Also, please consider leaving a review and let me know what you think. All the links we talked about will be on the show notes, or you can go to tapinwithtaco.buzzsprout.com. Talk to y'all next time. Peace.